Have you come across a problem wherein an application is deployed in a cluster containing about 20 servers, and everything goes fine, and one fine day, and that too on a Friday evening, let's say the application is not working, it is frozen, and not sure in which node this is not working. What do you need to do? You need to log into each of the servers, server 1, server 2, server 20, how many number of servers, and that too in production. They want the results immediately, and you have lots of people lined behind you to know why this is not working, and they want to get it fixed as soon as possible. So analyzing those logs in 20 different servers, is it easy on a Friday evening? It's really difficult on a normal day. On a Friday evening, it's too difficult. That is what Fluentd is trying to solve. Hi there, I am Subbu. Stay with me till the end of this video to know more about the Fluentd. In today's video, I will be explaining the Fluentd concepts, the Fluentd architecture, the various plugins, how they are glued together through the Fluentd configuration file, and finally, let's see how to push a application log file to the Azure storage blob. Let us crush Fluentd together. Awesome. Hey there. You remember when I initially started this video, I had briefly talked about a problem statement where an application is deployed in a cluster, multiple nodes, and if there is a problem in if the application fails, it freezes in one of the nodes, how do we troubleshoot and fix the problem? So that's where the Fluentd comes in. Let me explain you what I'm really talking about. So I cannot draw 20 servers, but let me just draw at least five of this. Okay, so let's say this is one of the server, and this is the second server, this is the third server, and let me just draw 5 servers. Okay, so we have 5 servers. Awesome. So in each of the servers, let's say our application is deployed. Okay, so we have application is deployed, application is deployed, application is deployed, and application is deployed. Along with that, we will install what you call a Fluentd service. Okay, so we have the Fluentd service. What Fluentd is, you will slowly understand it. Okay, so we have installed Fluentd service along with the application. Okay, so now Fluentd, once it is installed, Fluentd can monitor the application logs. Okay, it can monitor multiple things, but our primary focus is application log for this problem statement. It can monitor the application logs, and whenever there are changes, it can pull those changes and it can push it to a centralized logging repository. Okay, so let's think maybe it could be Kafka, for example. Okay, so let me just write it here. Let's say it could be Kafka. Okay, so Kafka is a messaging system. Okay, so we could write it to a Kafka system, and that could be maybe another monitoring system in place. Okay, which will be reading this Kafka events, and whenever there is a misbehavior, it can just alert, and it knows exactly in which machine the application has frozen or it has failed. Okay, so that's the easiest way to identify where the problem is with a complex setup. This is not important for this video, but anyways, it would be good to be aware of it. So you might be thinking, okay, 20 nodes, do I need to go manually install the application and Fluentd service in all those nodes? No. You can use some kind of automation tool like Ansible. Okay, so using Ansible, you could push or deploy the application to all those individual nodes in the cluster, and Fluentd service can be installed in each of the nodes and configured. And once the configuration is done and it is set up and your application is up and running, Fluentd service will periodically pull those log changes from your log file, and it will send it across to the centralized logging repository. Okay, for example, let's say in this case Kafka, it can send it to Kafka, and once it goes into Kafka, then that could be another monitoring system in place which will be reading those events, and it can take the necessary actions. Okay, so the same concept holds good in some of the cybersecurity infrastructure elements like SIM and others. The same concept holds good. Okay, so I'm not going into those rabbit hole at this time, so let me just stick with Fluentd. I'm sorry, I'm just rambling between multiple topics. Let me just try focused. I'm just trying to say myself. Now it's a time for understanding the Fluentd concept. Okay, so Fluentd at the end of the day is a pluggable architecture. Okay, so Fluentd is a pluggable. Let me just go back to the documentation. Sorry, I'm just distracted. Okay, so list of plugin installation, configuration, what I am looking at. Okay, so this is the Fluentd is a pluggable architecture. Okay, so what I mean is you could have your access logs, Apache access logs, application logs, system logs, any database logs, or maybe you can think of anything, for example, WebSphere logs, or maybe any other application server logs. Fluentd can just read those logs. It can parse it using the Parser plugin. It could format it in the way that the output plugin can take it, and the output plugin can push it into the target system. Okay, it could be Kafka, S3, Amazon S3, or any archiving system. Okay, awesome, wonderful. So now, what is the next step? So now we have looked at what Fluentd is. Let's see how Fluentd actually works. Okay, so let me just go back to this and just explain you what I'm really talking about. So Fluentd, what at the end of the day, it's going to be looking like this. So you have, let's say, your operating system, let's say Linux, for example, and on top of it will be our Fluentd. It's called as fluentd.service. Okay, so this Fluentd service is basically a kind of a service which is Fluentd is a service which runs on top of the operating system, and it will be using the Fluentd configuration file. Okay, this configuration file is the crux of whatever we want to do. Okay, so this Fluentd configuration file, it wires in what is the source, what kind of input plugins, for the input plugin, from where it has to read the logs, what kind of parsing has to be done, Parser plugin we are talking about, then what kind of filtering has to be done, what kind of formatting has to be done, and once it is formatted, what kind of output plugin is used for that source to send it to the target. So all these things are wired using something called Fluentd configuration file. So far so good, wonderful. So let me just head back to the documentation. I don't want to reinvent the wheel, so I'm just trying to some of the document. I will put in all the links in the description. So let me just explain this. So let's say in our case, let me just take the highlighter. It will be easy for me. Let's say we have the log source. Let's say we have a Java application which uses log4j, and the log4j produces the log file. Okay, so this is the log source. Okay, and this input plugin, filter plugin, output plugin, buffer plugin, everything is wired through what we call a Fluentd configuration file. Here it is put it as Fluentd pipeline. Okay, so all these things are wired through the Fluentd configuration file. We will definitely have a look into it while we get into the demo part of it. But as of now, understand that Fluentd configuration file is a standard format. I will show you some samples which will contain how do you connect the source from where we need to collect the logs, what kind of parsing has to be done, what kind of filtering has to be done, what kind of formatting has to be done, and how the formatted logs has to flow into the target system. Okay, S3 storage, for example. Okay, so all this is what I mean. I call it as a pluggable architecture. Okay, so today we have a few systems in place, and tomorrow, let's say there's a new system that's coming in and there is no Fluentd plugin. So what we can do is we just need to implement a new plugin. Okay, so at the end of the day, Fluentd is a C-based implementation, a thin layer of C we have, the C programming language, and the rest of it is done through Ruby. Okay, so if we have to implement any of the plugins, we will have to do it through Ruby. So the output is a gem file. Okay, so that gem will be installed in our Fluentd server where the Fluentd service is running, and once the gem is installed, then that plugin details will be referenced in our Fluentd configuration file, and once it goes in there, once we restart the Fluentd service, then everything just works like a magic. You got it? So at a high level, let me just explain it one more time. So Fluentd Fluentd is the pluggable architecture logging log collector. Okay, it's a pluggable architecture log collector, and it has got concepts like input plugin, filter plugin, output plugin, formatter plugin, parser plugin. So these are some fundamental concepts or building blocks, and the Fluentd can be extended by adding more plugins, and all those plugins are wired through the Fluentd configuration file. We call it as a Fluentd pipeline. Once the configuration file is created with these details and you restart the Fluentd service, pretty much everything happens like a magic. Let us just hop into the documentation to see some of the details around the Fluentd input plugins and output plugins and other details. So input plugins. So the standard input plugin that I have used so far is Intel. Okay, so this is Intel. Okay, so if you have worked on Linux system, there you would have used tail -f command, wherein whatever change it will actually stream the information. Whatever changes happens, you can see the only those changes you could see it on the console. Okay, similar concept is used to create this in_tail input plugin. Okay, so at the end of the day, let me just head back and let me just show you this. So you have this is how we'll define the source, and what is the input plugin. In this case, it's in_tail plugin, and where that this plugin has to read the log file from somewhere, right? This is where it is defined by this path. Okay, and pos_file tells that, okay, let's say there is a rollover of the logging file, or the log file gets added. So from what point the log information has to be read by the Fluentd is maintained by this pointer. Okay, the pos_file, and finally the tag, for example, tag Apache access is used. In this case, the Apache access logs will be matched with the corresponding output plugin. The parser is associated with the source plugin, it is associated with the input plugin. Okay, so in this case we are using the Apache 2 parser plugin. Okay, and the thing is, I don't want to make a video which is more than 30 minutes or 40 minutes. So I will try to just cover the cream of whatever is required to understand Fluentd. Okay, so let us just jump into parser. Let's talk about an example. Let's say we have a legacy system, and for that legacy system, let's say we want to use Fluentd. So in that case, or maybe another system where the logging system, where the log files cannot be understood by Fluentd. In that case, Fluentd has a mechanism to introduce a parser seamlessly into the architecture. We could implement our own parser plugin, and that parser plugin, it will parse the data in a proprietary format. It could parse the data, it would give it in a format that Fluentd can understand. Okay, that's it. That's what parser is all about. So let's just see filter. Okay, so let's say in our log file there are some proprietary details, and we want to mask the details, or we want to add some additional details which is required for Kafka. So in that case, we will use something called a filter plugin. Okay, so next, let us see what is a formatter plugin. Formatter plugin is very closely associated with the output plugin. Okay, so let's say the source is producing, let's say in a CSV format, and let's say the output system, the target system, is expecting the output in a JSON format. That is where the formatter plugins would come in. Okay, and the output plugin, again, it is a way for Fluentd to push the logs into the target system. It could be Kafka, Amazon S3, Azure blob, Azure blobs. It could be any of this. Okay, so pretty much I think we have covered the fundamentals of what Fluentd is and how Fluentd works. So the next step is I'm going to set up the required infrastructure for showing a demo around how to push the custom application logs to the Azure blob storage. Awesome. So far we have seen the theoretical aspect of the Fluentd architecture, the Fluentd concepts, the Fluentd plugins. We talked about the Fluentd configuration file, how the plugins are wired together, so all those details we saw. So now it's a time for us to get into the meat and potatoes of this specific video content. Okay. To speed up the process, because this demo is not how to install resources, how to configure resources in Azure, but this is more of Fluentd. So what I did is, just to save time, I have set up the resources in Azure. I created a virtual machine and Azure blob storage, and the Azure virtual machine is an Ubuntu server, and that Ubuntu server is where we will be setting up our application, as well as the Fluentd service. We'll be setting it up there along with the plugins. So once we have the things once the things we have set up in the virtual machine, then it's time to configure the Fluentd configuration file and start up the Fluentd service to push the logs to the Azure blob storage. Okay. I want to share some details around the authentication mechanism between the Fluentd service and the Azure blob storage. That's important, because I'm sure that when the output plugin, when we talk about, there will be a concept of managed identity. That's when it comes, I'm sure you guys will have lots of questions around it. So let me just at a high level explain how the authorization happens. So in Azure, there is a concept called as managed identity. Okay, so let's say if there are two resources in Azure, one is a virtual machine and other is Azure storage, and in the Azure storage we want to assign role to, maybe we could assign it to a role, we could assign it to a user, we could assign it to a group, or we could assign it to a Azure resource. And that is where the concept of managed identity comes. So we need to enable the managed identity for the virtual machine, and once the things are configured to have the managed identity open up, there's some checkbox that we need to enable it. I can show you that. So once we have that option configured, the managed identity configured for the virtual machine, we could use that managed identity to have a role associated with that. For example, it could be a storage blob contributor role in the Azure storage. So we could assign that role to this managed identity. Once we have tied up this role with that managed identity, then the Fluentd service which is running in the Azure VM can send those logs to the Azure blob. So it would be good if you know it, because end to end you will be clear on why we are doing or what happens beyond the screen. Okay, so let me just head back to the VM that I created it. So if you see here, there is an identity. So I've set that to on. So now it is enabled. Okay, the system managed identity is currently on. Okay, so the next step is let me just hop into the this is the storage, and within the storage, let's say in our case we have the access control, and go to check access, managed identity, and virtual machine. You could see it here. Okay, so this is assigned a role of storage blob data contributor. Awesome. So we have done the basic infrastructure setup and configuration. Now it is time to set up those Fluentd service plugin and other details around it. Awesome. Now I am logged into the virtual machine that we provisioned a few minutes back in Azure. I'm logged into the machine. I have SSH'd into that machine. So let's now install the Fluentd. Before that, I need to do some basic housekeeping job. To update. Okay, so now it's installed. Now let us go ahead and let me check what is the version of so it is focal. The Ubuntu is focal. Okay, the code name is local. So focal. Okay, let me just go here, just copy it, just come back to the terminal and just paste it here. So now the Fluentd service is getting installed. I'm just going to pause this video for a second. Awesome. Now Fluentd is installed. So let us check where the installable folder is. It's normally installed in Fluent, and all the files will be here. Okay. Next step is we have to start the service, for which let me just go here and just copy it. Just come back to the terminal here. Just do sudo system Fluentd service. How do we check whether the service is up and running or not? So just you can issue status, and pretty much it is right, it is in running status. Okay. Before I actually install the necessary plugins, I want to tweak the Fluentd service configuration file. I'm not talking about the Fluentd configuration file with the plugins, but the underlying Fluentd service itself has got a configuration file from that file. I want to fine tune it a little bit. Let me just explain what I'm talking about. Fluentd start. Okay. This is what I'm talking about. Okay. This file is owned by the root, so I have to make sure that I am going with the sudo permission. Okay, so I do not know whether this user is created, but I don't want to take time to do all these things. So let me just run it with root. But in actual project environment, make sure that you have the right user in place, and we have to run it other than root. But for the demo purpose, I'm going to make it to run it as root. Okay. So now I need to do system. So once this service configuration file is, the underlying Fluentd service configuration file is changed, we got to reload it. Okay, so I'll just show you what I'm talking about. Okay, it's reloaded. So now we need to restart it. Restart. Okay, wonderful. So now we have the Fluentd service up and running. Wonderful. So now what we're going to do is we need to install the plugins. Okay, so let's just head back to the, I think I've already opened the browser here. Let me just copy this command. Let's go back. I'll show you where exactly the gem files are located. So if you go to bin, you can, this is the command that we need to use. Okay, and excuse me, Ruby, it's within this Ruby 3.2.0 is where the gems will be located. Okay, so I'm going to install a gem from the internet, from the GitHub. Let's see how it is being done. Okay, so I'm going to bin and dot gem, and just got to paste it. So make sure that redundancy, we're going to remove it. We have to run this with sudo permission. Okay, so sudo install blob. Awesome. So the installation is done. So now the plugin is there is a new release from Ruby Gem. So let me just update it. Gem, let me just update it with sudo and update system 356. Just copy it. Control-E. Okay. Wonderful. So now we have the Fluentd service. We have installed it. We have installed the plugins. We have made some small tweakings. So what is the next step? So next step is the meat and potatoes. That's the actual demo. Okay, so how do you do it? So how I'm planning to do it is, I do not want to create an application specifically for demoing these. So for that purpose, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to simulate as though there is a log file that is being created, and that log file will be monitored by Fluentd, and it will send it to the Azure blob storage. That's a fictitious use case I have. Let's just do that. Okay. First, let me just take a backup. First, we need to know where that Fluentd configuration file is. Let me just head, excuse me, this is where we have the Fluentd configuration file. Okay, so let me just take a backup of this file in case I mess up something. At least I have a backup. Okay, wonderful. Now we have the backup file. So now what we're going to do is we're going to modify this Fluentd configuration file. This is what the pipeline, the workflow pipelining that's briefly we saw, right? During the time while we're trying to understand the concepts, we said that there is a configuration file which wires in all these plugins, right? That is this is what is the Fluentd configuration file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete everything. Okay, let's just start this fresh. Okay, everything is removed now. Okay, so now I'm going to start it from scratch. So now before I do that, let me just go open up another window. window. Let me just create a application folder. Okay, so mkdir, I'm going to do mkdir minus p/opt my app. Okay, and once, so this, do it with sudo. So we have the my app directory. That's where the application logs will be created. So it is ready. So now what we need to do, so let me just assign let's say the ownership, let me just assign that to myself. Okay, I don't want to use sudo all the while, so I'm going to do sudo change mod change John. I'm going to use subbu admin, and this is my ID, and I want to do it recursively on this folder. Okay, so wonderful. So now when I do ls minus aatr/opt my app, opt, if I do it, it's actually in my name. Okay, so I could just do a touch, or I could just do an echo file, echo just do /opt my app.log. Okay, so now if you do a cat on this file, you should see the content. Okay, so we have hello world. So now what we are going to do is we're going to take this file. This is what is going to be our driver. Let me head back to this file, and let me just have I told you, right, for every input plugin, input source that we have, we need to define this section. So what we're going to do is I'm saying that the type is the tail plugin, the in underscore something we saw, right? That is the tail plugin, and we need to provide what is the path to this file. Okay, the path is this particular location. Just take this and put it here, and let's just delete this, and then we need to provide the path underscore file. Okay, normally the Fluentd log file is created in /var. It's created in /var/log/fluent. Let me see, I'm not sure. /var/log fluent. Okay, so let me just take this path. Let me just go here. I'm just going to use my app.log and .pass. Okay. Oh, what did I do? Oh, sorry. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Just have to copy it. Okay. I'm just going to paste it, and my app. Pass. Okay. So some to have that position, the pointer maintained, we need to give that file name with that location. Okay, type path pos file, then we need to provide tag. Okay, so in this case, let's say we have my app. Okay, so let me just head back to the documentation. Let us see the input plugins. Okay, so we had the input plugin, and we saw what is entail, and let's just quickly see this. So we have type, path, pos file, and tag. Okay, so that's what we have. So type, path, pos file, and tag. So now where do we want to send this changes, log changes, my application log changes to? So to start with, I don't want to directly jump into the Azure, sending it to Azure blob. So let's start it with it's the match. So that's how we define it, and we say that so whichever has got a tag name as my app. So the output plugin, whatever is defined here, will take care of it. Okay, so just define it here, and in this case I'm going to use the debug plugin. So just use type std out, and okay, so what this does is whatever the log file that I will be creating it on I'll be pumping this log file with a lot of echo commands. So whenever the log file changes, that change will be written into the Fluentd's log file. So this is for debugging purpose. Again, this is a pro tip. If you are finding yourself stuck in some plugin issue, the best way to debug is write it to the Fluentd log file. Then exactly we know where things are going wrong. Okay, so let me just hit that, and we have to restart, right? So how do we restart it? Sudo systemctl restart fluentd.service. What has failed? I think it doesn't look good. fluentd.com, something I've just messed it up. I need to provide what is a format. In this case there is no formatter, so I'm just going to provide format as none. Okay, so it's going to take the raw information and it's going to use it. Format. Okay, so normally format, you will have it in a JSON format or some kind of a parser we have to provide it. So since I'm not going to provide any parser, I just put it as none. So it just takes the raw text and it just writes it into the Fluentd's log file. So let me just restart it. So okay, it's working. So now what I need to do is, let me just do var log, let me just do a tail, because we talked about this command a lot. So let me just tail the log. Okay, so fluent and fluentd.log. Okay, so let me just write some more information, more info, and let's write it to the myapp.log. Awesome. Using it, more info. Okay, we got it. I think that the first one somehow it just got lost. Okay, so let me just write okay, let me just echo what is happening, and let me just pump it into the opt myapp.log. Okay, so now let us, what's happening? Awesome. So now I think the debug plugin is working. So what is the next step? So we will have to now configure the output plugin in our Fluentd configuration file to send the logs to the Azure blob storage. That is the next step. So how do we do it? I'm just going to the documentation that I showed a few minutes back. Let me just take this. Okay. Fluentd.com. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to comment these ones which is not required. So I'm going to paste this. So this is the output plugin that will write the logs to the Azure blob storage. Okay, so I told you about, let me just remove this Azure container. So let me just give some meaningful name here. Fluentd logs. Okay, so let me just pause for a second. I will just bring in the storage name. Okay, let me just paste it here. Okay, it's demo fluent storage. Okay, awesome. So I forgot one main thing. Okay, so here it is pattern. Okay, so what I need to provide, I need to put my app. If you have got it, you are awesome. You have done it. If not, it's a learning for us. Nothing wrong. Maybe it would have failed and you would have come back and we would have fixed it. So awesome. Okay, so now we have our source, and the source now the Fluentd will take the source log, whatever we created it, and that will be pushed into Azure using this output plugin. Okay, so very standard way, and there is internally it uses a buffering mechanism. But I think for this purpose of demo, since we are talking about the very fundamental building blocks, I don't want to get into those aspects, but maybe I can create a separate video around this. So let us jump in and let us just restart the services. Okay, so just do sudo and systemctl restart fluentd.service. Okay, awesome. So now we got to wait for 2 minutes. Okay, so meantime I'm going to write some echo messages. Messages to Azure. Okay, let me just use my app, and which is our log file. It's myapp.log. Okay, so I'm going to just waiting for the 2 minutes interval. Okay, so I'm going to pause this video. I don't want to keep you guys waiting for 2 minutes. I'm going to pause this video, and whenever that interval breaks, I'm going to just unpause it, and we will just take it from that. Awesome. So now what's happening is we have the I showed you, right? Let me just head back to the configuration file. We said that it requires a container. So this Fluentd logs container, it got created since it was not there. Okay, so the Fluentd logs container is created, and once the Fluentd logs container is created, it created a path called logs, which is available in our Fluentd configuration file. This is the logs path, and inside that it has got created a file with this specific naming convention. Okay, so if you just open this file, you can just download it, and let's just see what is inside that. Yes, waiting for 2 minutes. Wonderful. So now we have the end-to-end demo. We did it. We installed we provisioned the server in Azure. We provisioned the Azure blob storage. We configured those resources. We installed the Fluentd service. We installed the Azure storage blob plugin, Fluentd plugin, and once all this installation, configuration, everything was done, then we simulated as though our application is creating logs. We created it manually. We started with the std out output plugin. Then we used the Azure blob storage output plugin to stream these information to the Azure storage. Awesome. I think it was an amazing end-to-end demo. Do you like this video? If you like it, if you have any questions, suggestions, please put it in the comments below. By the by, did you subscribe to my channel? If not, you should consider subscribing today to get notified of any future content. Thank you so much for watching the video. I will see you soon with more content like this. Thanks so much, and bye for now.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and hit that subscribe button for more content like this. Your support means a lot to me, and it helps the channel to grow. Thanks so much for watching.